Hello, my name is Michael Davis. I want to thank everyone for having me here to be the juror for this show. I was overall very impressed with the work that was here. It was a very tough task to whittle it down to the pieces that I did. I've been up here for a little bit, and we're going to start with the honorable mentions, and this is the first honorable mention here. The outbuilding, the lino cut. I think what struck me about this piece the most, and I can say this for a lot of the pieces that I chose, is that it had a very unique feel to it. It had a unique composition. I could definitely see the artist's hands in the entire process. That's a very nice mood. That's kind of what struck me. It has even though it's a very simple black and white, there is a nice mood to it. I don't know whether this is the artist's intention or not, but it strikes me as like a nice moonlit evening, and it's just a very attractive piece. I thought it was well composed, well executed, and a successful piece. Another honorable mention is the Salt River Ford here. And what struck me with this is, immediately when I kind of turned the corner here, it jumped out at me. The color, the contrast of the background, the cool blues and greens in the background, and the warm, clean colors of the foal, really make this foal stand out. And so it was a very striking piece. A lot of clean color. I like the expressiveness of the paint application. Even though there's a nice fluid brushstroke, there's still a lot of control. Maintain the form very well, a good sense of light and dark, with some good clean high chroma lights which really make it pop out and seem like a nice bright subject. So overall it's just a very technically successful painting, and I think overall it has a very nice and pleasing feel to it. All right, continue with the honorable mentions. We have Turn of Fortune here. Again, what initially struck me with this watercolor was the technical aspect of it. I'm drawn to pieces where I can definitely see time and experience in the piece, and this is a beautiful application of the watercolor. Lots of variation in these colors, lovely transitions from warms to cools. Compositionally, it's a very interesting but abstract composition, so there's lots of interesting linear dynamics to it. So overall, it's just a very technically well accomplished piece. All right, here we have Danai. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Another honorable mention. And again, what struck me with this piece was kind of its uniqueness. Of all the pieces in here, it kind of stood out just in style and in paint application. And there's in my opinion, a very classical feel to it, very reminiscent of some realist painters, and then it's also a very modern painting. So there's a nice combination of, classical, almost figurative aspects, and then very kind of design and abstract elements. Very reminiscent of Gustav Klimt. It has this kind of, even though it's a very peaceful painting, there's a nice dynamic to it that makes it a very vibrant piece. All right, here we have the last of our honorable mentions, playing by ear. What struck me about this piece right off the bat was just the actual structure of it, the kind of, the glass and the metal and how they play off of each other. But then it was also interesting to kind of go a little bit further and, seeing how the butterflies and the glass and the music, the relationships between that. The steel and glass are kind of opposites, and it was kind of nice to, seeing, the butterfly and the keyboard, the music is not opposites, but kind of like one's delicate and one can be forceful. And so it was a nice duality, and it's a very nicely made table. I like the I forget what that's called, but the musical aspects that are in the side of it.
Treble clefs.
Treble clefs, yeah, there you go, yeah. But I just thought it was a nice kind of juxtaposition of the steel and the glass, and I just thought that added a nice kind of complexity to, just the overall meaning of the piece. Okay, third place is Mumble and Squeaks. This, again, really stood out to me when I came around and looked into the little nook here. It's a beautifully simple design, executed masterfully. The handling of the watercolor is just beautiful. The transparencies, the washes, the way that the play of these warm reflected lights, the coolness of the door, the transitions of purples to blues to greens, and you're seeing all of these colors reflected in every single aspect of the painting, and it just gives this harmony to the whole thing. A really clean design, some very good compositional aspects, and just for me there's kind of like an Edward Hopper-esque feel to it, where there is a simplicity to it, simplicity in design, simplicity seemingly in the execution, but a complete mastery of what they were doing. So it's a very, very beautiful watercolor. Second place, we have Which Way, a beautiful photograph. What initially struck me about this photograph was that it had a very painterly quality. It had a very, a lot of the aspects that in my painting I kind of go for, a nice contrast of light and dark, and a beautiful kind of emphasis on one aspect or one subject. And so I was struck initially with just the beautiful look, the feel of it. There's a nice contrast of light and dark, movement, and the still. So I mean, it's just it's a very intriguing. It's one of these photographs that kind of draws you in, even though it's a very simple setting. It definitely interacts with the viewer. There's this sense of being there, sense of being in the moment, but yet this sense of kind of the moment stopping, like you not interacting with the moment. So it's a beautiful photograph. Technically, the technical aspects of the printing, the matting, the framing, everything really top-notch and well executed. All right, and then we have Best in Show, our first place winner, Roxie Rue. Again, when I came up the stairs, this painting stood out. It was a very striking painting to first come in contact with. It's I think of all the pieces that are in here, and all of them are good, all of them show an aspect of the artist, but this one I think really showed the hand of the artist, from subject matter to composition to paint application. You could just, it was a very well it was done it was just done very nicely. I like the compositional aspects, the forced perspective on the dog, this very hard diagonal going through there. A lot of this composition, a lot of this feel reminds me of Lucian Freud, one of my favorite painters. So there's this, not only is there just kind of like this quirky aspect, but there's like, because of the kind of the contrasts with the composition and the lighting, there is like a little something else to it. You could sit here and kind of lose yourself, and even though it's a dog, you could really get into the psychological aspects of this dog in this setting. So I just think that personality-wise, and just the end product really show a distinct style, really show an artist that is in control of what they're doing from start to finish. And so I think it was just a very well thought out, accomplished, and dynamic piece. So congratulations to Roxie Rue's artist.